How's it going, everyone? This is Eflex and welcome back to another A Producer's Approach video. In this video we're going to be looking at Eminenc's song Lipstick. So thank you for Pickle Maniac 7 again for the recommendation. I saw your comment, I responded back, I thought about this song, and I remembered how I hadn't listened to this song in a while, so I figured after listening to this song again that I'd do an APA video for that. So thank you again, Pickle Maniac 7. But if you guys haven't listened or watched my videos in the past, I basically break down these songs into 3 different parts. I have a intro backstory part, then I have a breakdown analysis part, and then lastly I have an outro part to just sum up my thoughts and opinions. So this is Eminenc's song Lipstick. The song actually came out on the album 009 Reunion. And personally for me, I've actually kind of forgot Lipstick was part of this album. I thought it was part of an earlier album, but 009 Reunion is actually the first album I bought on my own. It's not the first one I listened to on my own, but it's the first album I bought on my own. So like through iTunes, because at the point to when these album releases were coming out, like I was still in high school, so I didn't really have much money, so I remember I had like a iTunes gift card or something, and I was like super proud that I bought 009. So to me, 009 is also an album with like a lot of, I guess, nostalgia and sentimental value, because that was the first album off Monstercat that I actually purchased on my own and started listening to like at school or just on my own free time when I'm not on YouTube. So that was really cool. There are a lot of good songs on 009, and I plan to do a lot more videos on those songs, because those are just, you know, some of the first songs I listened to a lot on my, back then, iTouch. So yeah, it's pretty cool. But Eminence has been a long time Monstercat artist. I think they released way in the early days, which is why I thought the song was like an early release from them. I think they were one of the original artists, at least within the first 3 Monstercat albums. I can't remember which song was exactly their starting song, but I know they've been on Monstercat since the early days, and they just released another song on Monstercat recently, or within the past like 3-4 months. So they still are like a relevant presence all these years later. So they've been, I think, with Monstercat for at least 10 years, or a little over 10 years, 10, 11 years, for as long as Monstercat's been around. So it's just kind of crazy in that regard. So yeah, this song is a house song, and you know, Eminence is a duo, I believe. They're from Canada, and much like Project 46, but I can't remember if these guys live in the same area, because I think Project 46, they lived in separate areas, at least in the past, from what I remember. I don't know. But anyways, enough of me talking. Let's dive into this song. Alright, just kind of want to stop there. So it's a more traditional intro for, you know, house music, with the kind of kick snare, but the interesting part is there's like an arp that kind of plays on the top. There's the kick, and then the snare almost sounds like a drum roll snare that you would hear like a marching band, or like a drum roll kind of drum off, I guess. I don't know, like kind of like it reminds me of like a drum roll from like a marching band in some regards. And one of the things I really like about house within this time is that they kind of introduced that bass line in the very beginning, which is like really kind of sidechained, which is really cool, because that's actually what got me into a lot of the house music in the beginning, because as good as the songs are throughout the drops and the breaks, I sometimes just like how the song intros and outros and some of the different structures and sounds that they use to outro, that's a little bit different than in the breaks or in the drops. So the intro bass is really cool, how they sidechain that and how they introduce it. That's the thing of like this time period, I feel like, of progressive house, which I always liked because it really introduced kind of that really kind of heavy wubby bass. So and then there's also kind of this kind of like blooping sound, like bloop 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 bloop, like it's kind of coming off on the off beats, so on the 2 and the 4. I guess you can almost call that as a riser. I don't know, it's kind of like this weird blooping sound, kind of like to add more flow, and also I guess to rise up into what's going to become the break. So just wanted to point that out, so we'll keep on going. All right, so just to back up a little bit to the kind of intro section, the beginning of the intro section, it kind of has a drum build. I didn't really notice any white noise, and then in the intro there's kind of alternating kind of reverb, almost like a clap and a snare sound on the 2 and the 4 to kind of alternate. And then I really like this kind of intro break section. The chord progression and the lead kind of playing together remind me a lot of a Deadmau5 song within this time period. A lot of Deadmau5 songs kind of had that kind of sound and chord progression and breaks, kind of like how this song Lipstick has it. Like just the way that it's structured just reminds me of like a Deadmau5 an older Deadmau5 song from like 2012 or 2011. So that's just really cool how the similarities are there. And I never really noticed that before, but I also like how the kind of ARP sound comes back halfway through the kind of chord progression. And I like how there are no percussion in that section either. It gives all the emphasis really on the chords and kind of the lead sound kind of playing on top with that chord progression, and then the ARP sounds coming back in. So here's the build up, and we'll keep going. All right, I just kind of want to note that was actually one of the longer builds I've heard in a lot of the songs that I've been doing APA videos for. I don't know. There was like a snare build, and then there was kind of like a winding sound. It wasn't necessarily like a white noise sound. It was like a winding riser sound. Could have been a note that was being played that was just being pitched up really high. It also sounds like that note was, or that sound was being filtered out, as well as the snares. The snares weren't super impactful throughout that drop either. Like you hear them, but they're not like in the forefront. But yeah, that's one of the longer build-ups that I've heard in a lot of the songs that I've broken down so far, which is pretty interesting. Nothing bad, it's just that you can tell it's building the tension for like a really long time, and then gives a breath of air, and then it gives the kind of like a clap to introduce into the drop. So that kind of breaks the tension and the suspense and then hits the drop. So I just wanted to point that out because that was actually kind of a longer drop than I was build up than I was expecting. So let's keep going. so I just want to break down that drop section there. So the drop hits, there's a kick. It's not as punchy, I guess, as some of the other punchier kicks I've heard, but it's a 4/4 beat. The lead is playing. There's kind of like that kind of background like whoop 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 sound on the offbeats. But the one thing I really wanted to point out was the white noise that plays throughout the whole drop. That is an effect that a lot of progressive house and house producers, could be even electro and other artists, but I know mainly progressive house and house music at this time, they used a lot of white noise in the drop to kind of add extra noise and extra layer and to keep the flow going. Because personally, I did that myself when I was learning how to produce music in the very beginning around 2012. A lot of the techniques were to, put white noise in the background so you can have an extra layer and have it sidechain. So there's like a present noise, but it's not like super noticeable if you're not really looking for it. Like it adds kind of that extra layer of sound, which is pretty interesting looking back now, because a lot of house music is a lot cleaner. You don't really hear a lot of the side-chained white noise kind of throughout the whole drop section as you do nowadays. It's like a lot cleaner of a sound, or the white noise might be already incorporated into the sound. So that's just pretty interesting. A little bit of a blast of the past right there, listening to that. But the ARP comes back in the middle of the drop. And I think this is kind of the build up into the second break section. So the percussion kind of cuts out and then it kind of builds with that white noise, the bass, and I think the lead just kind of pitching up, I believe it sounds like. So let's get back to that. Alright, so that section was cool. It was either the lead sound going back into the kind of build up into the break. It was either the lead sound or that that sound that was being pitched like a riser. That might be that sound. And then I like that percussion to kind of end it all. Sounds a lot like an orchestral kind of hit. Reminds me of like something you'd hear in like Halo or something, like boom, or in like a movie trailer. And then the build up here, which is really cool. It sounds like the chord progression itself, the sound being used. I don't know if it's like a saw wave or a square wave, but it sounds a little distorted, especially in the way that it's filtering. You can kind of hear the distortion. It's not like fully clear. But I just want to point out that this is the first section where you kind of hear like a white noise riser kind of separating or leading into like this build up section here. But the build up in itself is a lot like a Deadmau5 song. I mean, I didn't realize till now how much this song sounds like an older Deadmau5 progressive house song. I mean that's just like the realization I had now. I was like, wow, like the break in space and just how it builds and the sound and how it sounds just reminds me of Deadmau5 from 2012. So if Eminence was going for that type of vibe with this song back in 2012, it totally hit the nail on the spot. So definitely just wanted to point that out. So let's keep going. All right, so pretty much the second break is pretty much similar to the first break, where the chord progression, the lead kind of play, and then there's that harp sound that plays. That comes in halfway through, then it transitions into the build up. I just want to hear if there's anything different in the build up, and I just noticed that the kind of bass sound or the chord progression sound kind of holds the root note or the root chord all the way through the build up, and that sound doesn't filter that much. It filters a little bit, but I think that's why there's a gap of air or breath of space in a sense, because it doesn't really filter that much. So they can kind of draw the tension from the other sounds, and then there's the gap of space, so they don't have to filter that sound as much. And then this drop, I believe, is structured the same. So let's keep going. Alright, so that is Eminence's song Lipstick. So we'll backtrack a little bit more into that second drop. The second drop is structured the same as the first drop. I was just listening for different sounds this time that I didn't notice in the first drop. One of the things I really do like in these two drops is the kind of almost like a whoop sound that's kind of on the offbeat almost. I don't exactly know how to describe it. It's just like the whoop, 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 like on the offbeat. That's really cool when it kind of comes in on the 2 and the 4. And the kind of use of the claps is really cool. They sound more organic, I guess. It almost sounds like a wood block or hitting instead of more of like a generic electronic clap or an 808 clap, I guess you'd say. But that's really cool, and the use of reverb on those. And then one thing I just wanted to point out is like kind of the build up into the outro or out of these drops. So there's like the root note and chord just plays for like a really long time, and then that riser pitches up. I think that's an older technique that a lot of artists used to use in the past. I used it as well to kind of transition into a different section where you just play like the root note and the lead plays like the root note as well, and the chord progression plays like the root chord, and like it just holds for a while, and then like you put a filter on it or something, or you put some or like a riser to it, and then like you build it up for like a little while and then transition. It's not the worst transition, it just takes a really long time. So like this song is like 6 minutes and 12 seconds, so it does stretch out a lot of time, especially if you're making like a 128 bpm house song. Like that section could be for a good like 15-30 seconds. So if you want to make like a shorter house song, you know, there are a little bit better ways to transition nowadays, but that was one of the early ways that I noticed a lot of artists, especially like in the house music scene, progressive house and house music, they did that. But overall, this song's really good. Thank you, Pickle Maniac 7, for me rediscovering this song. Like I remember like some of the songs on 9, like Hasselhoff and A Dream, I think, by Run Funk, but I always forget about Lipstick, and you could kind of tell it's a little bit forgotten because it only has 443,000 views for almost being 10 years old. So just the takeaways from this song is I love how the deadmau5 vibe is. I really like that. I never noticed that before. I like that kind of whoop sound on the offbeats. That's really cool. And the use of those organic sounding claps is really nice as well in the drops. And the break sections are probably my favorite. I like how they didn't use any percussion in those break sections. Like in the second break, it completely goes quiet and builds up slowly. I just kind of like that, and they kind of gave me that whole emphasis on the chord progression and the kind of lead sound, and just gave that whole deadmau5 vibe. So if you like deadmau5's music like I do, especially from this time period, definitely check this song out. If you want to listen to other Eminence songs, definitely check them out too. They make mostly house and trance, I believe. I don't know if they branched off into any other genres, but I know house and trance were the two that they mainly did. So anyways, I hope you guys like this video. Leave a like on the video, comment, subscribe if you like it, and if anything else, check out Eminence's music, check out Monstercat, and check out the album 009 Reunion. It's a little older, but it's definitely really good. So anyways, I hope to see you guys in the next APA video. Have a good one. Peace.
Okay.